Hello, welcome. Yes, Camilla and Lauren, how are you?
Good. How are you
Doing
doing?
well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So excited to have you. Thank you so much again for joining and preparing this conversation about preparation. Prepare to prosper. We're really excited to explore all the benefits of setting ourselves up for success, right? So I'm Britt, by the way, if you're watching this recording, Aubrey and I are from WX Wellness. And yes, Flora, Whole Wellness Collective, is who we have first partnered with, and really excited to support them and their incredible work, as well as bring it to the community and make it as accessible as possible for us all. So why don't I have Lauren and Camilla introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about Flora?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here. It's such a nice community that you guys are creating, and we're we're so aligned, like we were saying earlier, with your mission, and really excited to be here to share some steps to preparing yourself to have, your most successful week ever, because we all need that. But just a little bit about me. I'm Lauren. I am a clinical psychologist. And Camilla and I met when we were working together in New York City at an integrative wellness clinic. And we really, really, really connected. And we also noticed that when we had a particular patient who was working with both Camilla on their nutrition needs and like health coaching and all of their, health goals and wellness goals, and then working with me on more of their mental health and, stress management, etc., that these people really had more of a successful experience when they got to work with both aspects, right? So that's essentially the reason why we started Flora, and I'll let Camilla kind of continue the story from there. But I think, it's just a wonderful thing to see when people can connect mind and body.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Camilla. I am a registered dietitian. I'm also a board certified health and wellness coach and a mindful eating instructor. And yeah, just as Lauren said, we worked for a few years together at the same clinic, and just continually the clients that we had in common would just do so much better when they were kind of addressing their mental health stuff, as well as their, habits. Like I work with people on sleep, stress management, getting moving, changing diet, and just kind of self-care in general. Like how do you cultivate all those habits at once? But a lot of times, like maybe there's some emotional thing that's like really getting in the way, that's outside my area of expertise. And when they were able to have that outlet with Lauren to address that, they would just have this like accelerated benefit that was really clear and obvious, versus the other clients that we were only working with on nutrition or only working with on mental health. So now I live in Philadelphia. Lauren lives in Florida. We have this sort of virtual practice together. So we will each individually see clients. We also love working together. Like we said, that hybrid model of care with clients. And most recently, what we really love or are most excited about is doing group programs. So we find that like it is great to address your mental health and your kind of nutrition habits, exercise, all that stuff that I work with people on. But it's expensive to see two different providers privately. It's expensive to address all those. So in order to kind of increase access and just make it a community experience, a group experience, we've started launching group programs, which are our newest journey that we're really, really excited about, because having a community, having like a container of people that are all with the same intention, working together on an issue that they share is just such a powerful experience, and people just get a huge benefit out of it. Like it's great to have a team of people that are kind of like, we're all this forward momentum together. Like it's so meaningful, and that constant accountability and just checking in and support, it just feels, and validation. So we're moving in that direction now, which we're really excited about.
So fantastic. Absolutely. That's awesome. And you're right. It's nothing about wellness is compartmentalized. You don't just do one and then the rest falls into place. You really have to be conscious about it all. So that's, brilliant that you figured that out. And the integrated wellness approach is, that's so cool. The group aspect and community aspect, we are very supportive of. So fantastic. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. And we do have a viewer. Thank you for joining. So nice to see you. If you have questions at any time, feel free to drop them in the chat. Or at the end, we may have time for a little Q&A if you would like. But so let's get into the meat of it, right? So we're here talking about success and setting yourself up for success, but what does that actually mean? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I think one thing I encounter with a lot of people that I work with is they're like, I've got all these things I want, I want to get exercise in, I want to eat better, I want to do this, but the week, our weeks are busy. Like there's so much we're dealing with, whether, you're working or you're a parent or, you're even a student, like there's just so much happening. And it's very hard to kind of pull all those goals that you have in mind without a plan. So I love working with people to just like, how do you get to the place where you're getting that week that you want? Like, what are your goals? So the first step would be like, what do you want? How do you want to feel this week? Is one thing I really love thinking about, like for myself. Like, I don't want to be exhausted. I don't want to feel like my digestion's all out of whack because I've been eating weird food that is not balanced. I didn't make it at home because I didn't go grocery shop. You know what I mean? Like, I want to feel really good. I want to be well slept. I want to have maybe some energy that I got from social connections with people. I'd like to get some movement in. I don't want to be starting my day, waking up 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be in my first Zoom meeting. And like, so how do you make that happen? Right. So the first thing you want to do is think about like, how do you want to feel this week? We want to know what we want. So you want to think about your goals, and then you're kind of working backwards from there. Like, have a clear idea about what is the outcome that you're looking for. And then we can start thinking about like, what are the routines that are going to support that? And I think it's, the first step is to be really realistic. Like, we're not going to go from total chaos to like a beautiful, perfect, like evening and morning routine that involves like 20 steps. We have to build. So we want to be realistic about what our goals are. We want to be flexible with ourselves. We definitely want to be self-compassionate and know that we do have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things in the world happening right now that are pretty stressful and might be impeding our ability to accomplish our goals. And be really curious. Like, your mindset is really important when you're approaching habit change. Mindset is like, you always want to make a stop and check in on like, what's my mindset at right now?
Totally. Yes. And that really resonates about, if you know what you want to feel, then you can get to the root. But just starting at very specific goals is hard, because you don't even know where that would end up, maybe, right? If it's something that you're not used to.
Right. And we tend to like, just think about like, oh, I want to exercise 7 days a week. Well, that's probably not. And why do you want to exercise 7 days? Like, why is that the goal that you have in mind? Like, again, thinking about, how do I want to feel? Well, you don't want to feel crazy exhausted and like burn out. Well, maybe 7 days of exercise isn't the place to start.
Totally,
yeah, it's so true. It's so true. It's like, I find that a lot of people they just want to fix everything all at once. Like Camilla's saying, right? It's like, and of course, why wouldn't you? Right? It makes sense. Like,
who doesn't want to fix everything at once?
Who doesn't want to have everything
snap my fingers and be like my best self every day? Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's like, you sort of have to get granular about these goals. And like Camilla said, like, why do you want these goals? Like, what is your mindset behind that? And I think that that's a lot of what I think about with people. And that's a lot of what I talk about with people is like, where is your mindset? Because having the right frame of mind, being able to say, step away from that sort of all or nothing thinking, like I need to exercise every day, otherwise I'm not exercising at all and it doesn't count, it doesn't matter, right? There's this very important sort of shift to being flexible and being able to say, yes, I have these goals in mind and I have set these goals for myself. And these are the things I'd like to achieve. This is the way that I would like to feel. However, I'm not going to be rigid about it, because I think that leads us to criticizing ourselves. That leads to self-doubt. It leads to self-punishment. And none of those things are going to motivate us. They're actually going to demotivate us, and we're going to feel worse, which makes it less likely that we're actually going to kind of pursue those goals, right? I mean, I'm sure we've all been there, right? Where I should have gone to the gym today and I didn't. And now you feel upset with yourself, and then you may not eat the best, right? You may not stick to the types of foods that make you feel good that day. You might engage in more sugar or whatever it is that is a comfort food for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes away the wanting the instant gratification, as hard as it is to, we think we want that, right? But the journey is really where the goodness is,
Yes.
you have to be slow and easy with yourself. And, slowly, eventually, if you want to have movement of some sort, every day where you're celebrating your body and, celebrating your food, that's incredible, but definitely got to take it one step at a time. Easy does it, so that's beautiful. And for sure, I love what you said about reframing the negative thinking, how you're, instead of looking at it as, oh, this is something I should have done today, it's just like, well, you have a chance tomorrow, and it's
asking yourself, again, moving away from that self-criticism into just the mindset of curiosity. Like, okay, I didn't get to the gym today, even though it was my intention. Like, what got in the way for me? Like, why didn't I meet that goal today? And when you're able to just be curious about it, you can learn some super valuable information. Oh, well, I didn't get there because I, didn't manage my schedule at the end of the day correctly, or like I forgot my gym clothes, or I was exhausted this morning because I went to bed really late and I didn't get up in time to get to my morning exercise routine, whatever it is. Like, when we can be curious, we learn really useful info that's like, okay, so for next time, I know I need to lay my exercise clothes out, or I know I need to put it in my calendar. I know I'll be more likely to get to the gym if I schedule a class or whatever it might be. But we learn really useful information that makes it easier for the next time. Like, we can just think about information gathering versus an opportunity to just like chastise ourselves for not doing the thing we thought we wanted to do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Such a good point.
Being curious is the best part, because I'm doing exercise with people, and so many people have this negative feeling of exercise of, I've got to do this because that's what exercise is. It's like, well, do you even enjoy running, or do you even enjoy that? I'm like, no, I hate it. It's like, well, then why are you doing it 5 times a week? Let's find something that you do like. And or people set that real rigid goal of 10,000 steps, and then they're in their room at like 11 o'clock trying to get those last steps in. It's like,
oh my goodness, yes.
How healthy would you rather be sleeping a little bit more and feeling a little bit better that way? And I think being curious is the perfect way to describe it too, because what would you rather be doing, or what would be more fun, or what would be a better way to move your body?
Yeah. And how can you bring some joy into this? How can you make it fun? And try out a bunch of different things. What is the type of movement you enjoy? I think we often get sucked into this place of like feeling like you're at war with your body. Like, oh, I'm fighting my body. I need to like make it do this exercise that, again, I'm not even enjoying. It's like torture for me. Like, we don't want it. We want to be like, what does my body need? I'm like celebrating my body. I'm grateful for my body. I'm like, oh my God, my body allows me to do so many things. And that's the movement that's going to work the best for me. And like, how do I, again, like make my body feel good, and just making friends with our bodies instead of like being at war with it, or feeling like you're fighting it all the time.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that brings to mind something that I always like to get into with people is like belief in yourself, right? If we have a goal, if we don't actually truly believe that we can accomplish that goal, even if it's something as simple as like meal prepping, right? If you don't actually believe that you're going to do that, you're not going to do it. Bottom line, like it's just not going to happen. I actually was doing some research recently on mindset and sort of, habit setting, like being able to kind of accomplish the things that you want to accomplish in life. And I came across some research, actually from Brene Brown. Everyone knows who Brene Brown is. She is very famous in the health and wellness and mental health space. And she talked about this study that she actually conducted, which was really looking at how certain people were able to be successful at achieving the goals they wanted to be achieving, right? And then other people were not able to be successful. And she was able to determine that the one single factor was belief. The single factor was, if you believe that you can do it. And I was like, that is just
No way.
Incredible, right? So if you're struggling with self-doubt, if you're struggling with believing in yourself, you're struggling with, saying like, oh, I can actually be able to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish, then it's going to really impact your results. Like Camilla was saying earlier, right? Like if someone comes in and they're like, I really want to hit the gym 7 days a week, that's not a realistic goal. And if you are being honest with yourself, you probably don't believe that you can actually do that, right? And if you're able to set a goal that's more realistic, that's more within reach, that's more something that you can believe that you can do, like you could believe that you could do it twice a week, I bet, right? And you could truly like say, yes, I know that I could probably hit that, right?
Yes.
Then you're much, much more likely to be successful. And so I think that's so powerful, right? And being able to share that with people and share that like just having that simple belief is going to be foundational to whatever wellness goals you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Awesome insight. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I found that to be true when trying to start running. I saw a woman who runs an Instagram account all about running, and she was posting her times, and they were like 10 minutes, 10 and a half minutes, 11-minute miles. I was like,
Wow.
That's what my miles look like, And I thought like, she was like, even if you run slower, you're still running. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I am running, even if I'm slow, like it doesn't matter. I don't have to like kill myself every time for that 8-minute mile. A 9, 10, 11, 12-minute mile is I'm still a runner, no matter what it looks like. And then I started feeling, and then I just started doing it more often. And it was just a lot, like this whole load of my own expectations were lifted because of her putting her times out there.
Yeah. I feel like mindset is just like such a barrier for so many people, especially as Lauren was saying earlier, like that kind of perfectionist thinking or all or nothing thinking, like, well, if I can't do it for an hour, or if I can't do it perfectly, it's not worth doing at all. And it becomes, again, just this barrier of entry for people where they're like, well, I'm not going to do any of it. Or like, well, I didn't do this morning, so the rest of this day is whatever. And it's like, like it's okay to start small. Like 5 minutes of exercise is still exercise. Like so a little bit of movement is still movement. And the more you can get it in, the more you can build on it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your meal doesn't have to be perfect. Your food doesn't have to look Instagram worthy. Like your exercise doesn't have to be, an hour of high intensity interval training. Like do the thing that is accessible to you.
Yes,
Some
absolutely.
is better than none.
Totally. And however, like you said, however it feels good. If it's dancing in the shower, awesome. You know, that's movement.
It counts.
You're
It
getting
counts.
it done if that's all you have time for.
Amazing.
So yes, I love it. Thank you so much for joining. Also, we have another friend here. If you want to drop any
Welcome.
questions or feedback in the chat, feel free. And we'll have a little Q&A time at the end, hopefully, if you would like. Cool. Thanks for coming. So yeah, we're just talking about, you know, taking it easy on ourselves and making goals that are feasible and reasonable. How do you have any examples, specific examples maybe of how this, you know, technique could work for someone? Just, you know, other than the standard like a minute mile or whatever people are going for. Yeah, any examples of how this could play out?
Absolutely. I have a great example actually that I was talking with one of my clients recently who has really the strong desire to, you know, get healthy, to kind of revamp his diet, right? So he wants to start meal prepping. And meal prepping is a very daunting task, actually. Like, I mean, I personally find it like really daunting. It's something that you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to do it if you're being healthy, if you are, you know, planning for the week, and you're supposed to prepare all of your meals at once, and they all have to be like these great meals, and they have to stay fresh, and it just seems really daunting. You need a lot of Tupperware. Definitely. I remember trying to meal prep in my New York City apartment, and that was very difficult because you don't have so much room, right? And so this idea that like, okay, I have to spend my entire Sunday doing this thing, right? And then so my client would find himself on the couch, you know, catching up on Netflix, just sort of, you know, chilling as one should be able to do in one's life, right? Just relaxing on the weekend after working a long week. And then would begin to get anxious later in the day, like, oh my gosh, I have to meal prep. I need to do this. I need to set myself up for success this week. I need to, you know, do all the things. And that anxiety would start to get in his way, and he would have these very negative thoughts about himself and his ability to meal prep, his ability to get it all done. And because of those negative thoughts, he would then kind of retreat further, even further from the task, and watch more Netflix, right? Order takeout. And then he would proceed to kind of beat himself up, right? So it'd be like, I didn't do it. I should have done it. I ordered takeout. I'm a failure. You know, what we did is we really dialed in on what these negative thoughts were that were kind of holding him back. And we thought, okay, well, how could we replace these negative thoughts with something more helpful, something that's going to be more motivating for you? Because if you're saying, you know, you're a failure, you're never going to get this right, you're never going to achieve the goals you want to achieve, like that's very demotivating, like I mentioned earlier. So we examine the thoughts, we say, all right, we could say something different here, right? Maybe you were tired and you wanted to rest and you wanted to watch Netflix, right? Maybe you deserve to kind of take a break because you've had a long week. Maybe it was really difficult for you to get to the grocery store, and maybe it was going to cost a lot of money for you to buy all those groceries at once, right? So there's a lot of things that you could let yourself off the hook for, right? At the same time, knowing that he wants to achieve these goals, you know, we have to have some accountability, right? We can't always say like, oh, it's fine. You can just like lay and watch Netflix forever, because you're never going to achieve the goal. So there comes a time for like balance and really assessing like, okay, well, what's one thing you could do now, you know, even now at the end of the evening on Sunday? Is there something that you could do that would help you be successful still, right? And so we came up with a plan that, okay, guess what? I'm going to go online and I'm going to put in an order at my grocery store, and I'm going to have it delivered and it's going to come tomorrow night. Right. And I'm going to order some things that maybe are already sort of pre-chopped and pre-made that I can put into quick meals rather than, planning on doing it all himself, which I think was, again, one of those goals that feels really daunting and really lofty, right? Like going to the gym 7 days a week. So it was sort of about like looking at those thoughts and really breaking them down and saying like, actually, you're not a failure. Actually, you just chose to stay on the couch, and that's okay. And you can do that, but you're not going to achieve your goals if you do that. So how can we flip that around and say, well, if I feel like a failure now, what would help me feel a little more successful? I'm going to place an order. And then, that really impacted him, lifted his mood, helped him, kind of start the process. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like Camilla was saying earlier, like that idea of perfectionism really plays a role. And if people allow themselves to not be perfect at it, that they can be successful still.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah. Success is what you make it. Even if it's just, the like preparing one meal, that's a success. And you should celebrate that.
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great example. Thank you so much for sharing. Really, really helpful. So once people, if you are in the place now where you're able to take it easy on yourself and you're setting realistic goals as much as possible, is there any other final tips you have for implementing or, continuing? Because it is also, maybe you're successful a few times and then you get set back and you're like, oh, well, it would be great if I could do this, but maybe if, you have a kind of a baseline of a success, right? And then the others are kind of extra, right? Do you have any other, feedback about how that could support?
Well, I'd say there's definitely a few more steps.
Yeah.
We want to think about what our goals are. So we got that. We want to check in on our mindset. We've done that. We're not going to be a perfectionist about it. We're not going to be all or nothing. We've thought about our negative thoughts. We've thought about maybe our motivation, like why is this important to me? And then you want to look at like, what are the barriers? What are the potential barriers? Why didn't this work last week? Why don't I do this all the time? Like really take some time to be like, all right, like in Lauren's example, well, Sunday rolls around, I'm tired, I'm anxious, I don't want to. So what are the things that are getting in the way of you being successful with your goals? And if you can kind of start to identify those, you're creating a strategy to manage them and to be more successful. So like what's getting in the way? How can I address them? And from there, you want to think about, okay, what's my strategy? What's my plan? So I totally recommend, and I love doing this, and I find it to be one of the most useful things that I do is like on a Sunday evening, or maybe sometimes it's a Monday morning before my work week starts, but wherever it fits in for you, is just really taking some intentional time to sit down. And I love to like write it out. Like what are my goals for the week? What's going to get in my way? How do I make a plan for around it? And just like truly creating that plan. And so it'll look different depending on what your goals might be. Are your goals around meal planning? Are your goals around getting an exercise? Are your goals around a meditation habit? Are your goals around, could be anything. But whatever your goals are, like kind of map out, like, how's this going to work for me? What are the things I need to do to support myself? Is there anything I can do now to be more successful in creating these goals or sticking to them, and just creating a little strategy and a plan for yourself? I personally like advocate for literally writing it down, not just having it in your head and like kind of, but like when you write something down, it really imprints itself on you in a different way. And then I also love, like, every morning I have this like really cute little daily plan sheet. I write out my like schedule. What are my meetings, my little to-do list? What do I need to, and I do this every single day. And it just like, I enter my day knowing what's happening. I've thought about what my lunch is going to be. Like I even write in when my exercise is happening, even though I've already done it by the time I sit down and look at this, but I get to like check it off the list, like success. I'm already
satisfying, right?
I love checking things off of a list. It's like, oh, but it is like a little like high five for your brain. You're just like, and like research does show that like it is literally motivating to like check something off or like, you know, have a little visual cue for yourself that you're being successful with your goals. Especially when you're trying to create a habit. This is like anything to kind of keep propelling you forward is helpful. So I'm a huge advocate for writing things down, checking things off a list, but any way you want to do it, like maybe it's once a week, maybe it's every morning, thinking about your day, but having that plan, writing it down, you know, addressing those barriers. And then again, continuing to be curious and not self-critical when things don't go the way you wanted. Why didn't they? What got in the way? A new barrier for me to figure out how to how to address and overcome. So yeah, just like literally creating a plan. So it starts with goal setting, then you want to think about your mindset, you want to think about your motivation, you want to think about your barriers, and then create a strategy to like sum it all up. And it might sound like a lot of steps, but once you start doing it, it becomes very like, okay. This is how like I'm in the routine of doing this, and it's not like a lengthy process.
Yeah. And like you said, the checking off, I love that so much. Project management is also really satisfying for me. Any project management tool, I'll put personal stuff, you know, in my own private section. And like, it feels so good when you see a little rainbow unicorn shooting across a screen. And that's like, yes, you did it. So the simplest things. And that could even be, you know, having your piece of chocolate after your exercise, because you know you deserve that, you know. You earned it. So that is all very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing again.
High five for your brain is my new favorite way to think about checking something off your list. It's a very nice visual. It's very like you guys are working together as a team, your brain and your body. Let's check it off. High five.
Exactly.
So great. Exactly. I think that's you know, one thing that also inspired us, we've at least been exploring starting an accountability partnership element of the community, which is also super cool. You can high five your own brain and your friends.
Yeah, we all want as many high fives as possible.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, the community support and or even just, you know, another friend, like letting them in on your goal. It could be a little scary, but it could also be, you know, if it's obviously someone you really trust or a stranger. I found that either way is actually great, because the stranger doesn't know you. They don't, you know, it's like yes or no, I did it. And they're like, okay, cool. Or maybe try again tomorrow if, you know, you didn't get it today. Or what was your barrier? So
what did you learn about this experience?
Yeah.
Lauren and I were actually talking last night. We did a little our first Instagram live. We're starting a Instagram live every Wednesdays at 6:30 Eastern time. But we were talking about self-care, and I was saying, like, you know, even just knowing we were having this talk tonight made me kind of double down and think about like, what am I really doing for self-care? And like just having somebody in a community like WX Wellness to kind of check in and just keep it at the top of your mind, or at least somewhere in the top 10 list of priorities. Like, it really helps to have that reminder and just give yourself that moment of mindfulness of like, okay, what am I doing? Like, I need to remember to be self-compassionate here. I do have goals that I want to work on, or what's my self-care routine looking like this week? Like, it's nice to have that community aspect always.
Yeah, I love the idea of having accountability partners. I feel like that would be absolutely so effective.
Isn't that fun? Yeah.
Yes, it's such a great idea. And I think, you know, like Camilla was saying, it's like having that community aspect, you know, which is one reason why, you know, at FLORA, we are starting these group programs, is again, like you have people around you with shared goals. Their goals might not be exactly the same, but they're going to be similar, but you feel like that level of support, and just that being able to check in not only with yourself, which is obviously really important and foundational, right? Checking in with yourself, but checking in with yourself with the intention to share that with someone else, and with the intention to support someone else in their goals. It like makes it just like this full circle. And it's just like such a feel good moment, right? Because not only are you helping yourself by getting that, sort of accountability and support for someone else, but you're also offering it to another person, which is then actually more motivating for you. And when it comes, back to the idea of like that motivation and your level of motivation for making the changes that you say you want to make, right? We've all been there where it's like, oh, I really want to do this thing, but you don't take any action toward it. Right. And so that accountability piece, that community piece, it really impacts our level of motivation, because we're able to kind of see the momentum in others, and we're able to see how other people are benefiting from their positive changes, right? Which I think is really important, and something that we might not necessarily see just like in our regular day-to-day lives. But when you share that, and when you share that with others who have kind of similar goals, it's almost like the momentum multiplies itself. It's such an incredible feeling to be surrounded by other people who are doing things that are positive for themselves and achieving successes. It really makes you want to achieve success, not out of a jealousy perspective, but out of a like, oh my gosh, like that's so great. They can do it. I believe in myself now that I can do it, right? Like they're just like me. So why can't I do it? And I think that that's just like such a powerful thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, it comes back to that like belief in yourself part. It helps to like, really increase your belief in yourself that you can do it. Your self-actualization.
Absolutely. 1,000%.
Yeah. Like seeing other people do it, seeing people that have the same like struggles or challenges that you do, same goals that you do, and seeing somebody else achieve and that you help them achieve because you were supporting them and they're supporting you. Yeah, we need people. People are great.
Yeah.
We do. Like it's so important. I mean, especially like now, where not many of us are not seeing as many people as we once did in our lives.
Especially, yes, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about the group program that you guys are developing, or are you launching something soon? What's going on?
Yeah, so we have two things coming up. The first one is coming up in the
March.
Last week of March,
I believe.
We'll put the dates. Last week of March, we're doing a free 3-day live series talking about emotional eating. And so that'll be free.
Great.
We'll get all the information of how you're going to sign up for it.
We'll include the link.
Exactly.
Eventually, yes.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
then in the beginning of April, we're doing a 6-week like deep dive full on program that is like really, really getting in deep with emotional eating and like learning how to cope with emotions, cope with stress without turning to food. We notice for like the clients that Lauren and I share, like this is a very like, down the line, so many people experience this habit of emotional eating, stress eating, and also the exact thing that like our expertise, like the Venn diagram of us is like, it's emotional eating. So Lauren addresses it from kind of how are you recognizing your emotions? How are you managing your emotions? I do a lot of work around mindful eating because mindfulness, curious awareness is really the solution to this problem. We're really, really excited about that. So we'll do the free live series. And then if this is something, people really want to tackle in their lives, we're offering the 6-week program.
Fantastic. That is going to be so wonderful. We're really excited to support you all. And yes, thank you again for sharing all of your knowledge. I know you have both been working in these fields for a long time, so it's, you know, it's really refreshing though to have it, I think, accessible, you know, again, to the community. So thank you so much. That's awesome. We'll definitely include a lot more information about those live events and courses that you'll be doing. And does anyone have any questions about anything we discussed, or just in general, anything you'd like to chime in?
I had a question. I have been seeing a lot of stuff about habit stacking, and I feel like I kind of know what it is, but I don't know that I fully understand it. And so I was just curious what your sort of opinions on it, if you feel like it's valuable for people, or if it works, or if it's just another like fad thing that's kind of going around.
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit on what type of habit you're trying to create, but it can be a really useful tool. So habit stacking is when you have one habit that you do consistently without it's like fully ingrained a habit. It's a habit you're trying to keep. Like I make coffee every morning and then I drink it, or I take a
Like
shower,
brushing your teeth.
whatever, whatever the habit might be. And then you add on top, you make that habit be your cue to start the new habit that you're trying to incorporate. So I start making my coffee and then I go in the other room and I stretch for 5 minutes. Like you stack the habit that you want to create next to something that you're already doing. I watch this TV show every night. I'm going to add exercise onto that, or, you know, whatever the habit might be. So I think it just depends on what type of habit someone's creating, and if the availability of that other thing to stack it onto. So sometimes it works great, but sometimes somebody's trying to create a habit and might not necessarily be a really great option of a stackable behavior that they're already doing, like when they want to implement their habit. So I think it totally depends, but I think it can be great. Lauren, I'm curious. We actually have never talked about this. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so interesting too, because like habits are so hot right now. Like I feel like it's a thing, which is great, obviously. But I think that that's why maybe you're hearing more about this idea of habit stacking. And I actually just had a great habit stacking conversation with someone last week. So she had been doing a lot of reading about how regulating your sleep cycle, you need to sort of get out in the morning sunlight and really get that morning sun, you know, in your eyes. And, you know, that's absolutely true, right? It helps to regulate our circadian rhythm. And so she was like, I really want to do that, but I don't know how to implement that or remind myself that I need to do that. Like, you know, let's problem solve this. So we looked at it and we said, all right, well, you know, what's something that you do every morning? And brushing her teeth was one of them. So now may sound strange, but now she brushes her teeth on her balcony and gets that morning sunlight for those couple of minutes while she's brushing her teeth. And it's really funny because she said that it's really like elevated the experience for her too, right? Like imagine just standing out on your balcony brushing your teeth versus like over your bathroom sink. There's a totally different experience. So it's actually something that unexpectedly has improved her day in a small way as well, which I thought was like really cool.
That is brilliant. Very creative.
Yes, absolutely.
But now it's like, what else can you do outside that you normally wouldn't, or getting that?
Yeah, you could do stretching. You could do, I mean, anything that you know, would normally do, you might take that outside if obviously the weather is permitting.
Sure. Yes. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you for sharing. Did that help answer your question, Ab?
It did. It also kind of prompted another question, if I may.
Sure. Yeah.
So in talking about habit stacking and some of those other buzzwords that you hear, I feel like it's so hard to tell what's sort of bullshit and what's like, oh, that's a really good science-based thing. Do you have like something that when you see a new trend or a new buzzy health and wellness word pop up, do you have something that you sort of go to first to kind of check it out and like decide if this is something that you would explore, or like, no, that's just total, you know?
That's another great question. And I feel like, again, for me, the answer would be it depends. Like, I tend to be fairly skeptical, like, especially coming from, I'm a registered dietitian. So coming from like the world of diet culture, I'm very like, can we not? The last thing we need is like a new ridiculous diet that's like kind of an eating disorder. Like,
Right. I just saw reverse dieting and I was like, oh my gosh.
like
Exactly. Can we
We
not?
all have that. Like, no.
Yeah, seriously.
yeah. So if it's around a diet, I'm usually instantly like, no. Especially given like, and we like, they're just dieting is so short-sighted. Like, even things that are shown to work, what's the long-term outcome? Like, we don't have that, no one's following up with these people. Like, once they stop the diet, once they come up. Anyway, I could talk about that for like 5 years.
Yes, you can have us back and we'll be
We'll just be
dive into diet culture, right?
So I tend to be really skeptical about that. And similarly with like new fads around exercise, like, that's not an area of expertise for me. I help people get active, but I'm not a personal trainer. I don't have a degree in exercise to do. So I don't have any basis to like be skeptical, but there's so many trends and so many buzzwords now. And it is just like a sea of information to kind of sift through. So I don't even know what the answer to the question is. Like, be skeptical, do some research. I'm always someone that like, I find refuge in like finding a trusted, credentialed, like, provider that I can, their content really feels safe and accurate and useful and evidence-based to me. Like, that's often my like, okay, I need to just make me feel good. like I'm checking in with somebody.
Yeah.
I think that's such a great point about finding someone who is a trusted resource and a credentialed or licensed provider in the area that you're looking at, right? Like, if you're thinking of mental health, for example, like, there are, mental health is, again, another hot topic, right? So I think a lot of times you'll find people may have been to therapy and they want to talk about mental health. People, there's a lot of people who may not be credentialed or may be credentialed as maybe a life coach or some sort of coach, which, obviously nothing wrong with that. But I think if you're looking for information and you want to be certain that it is accurate information and you want to be certain that it's like, backed by science, you're going to want to go to someone who has the training, who has the years of education, who has the, the ability to either validate or sort of say, no, that's, that's false information. Because I think there's a lot of false information out there, unfortunately. It's wonderful that people are having these conversations and that they're talking more about like diet culture and mental health and all of these things, but making sure that you trust your source and that your source is someone who or a publication that you can trust and that has backing in the field that you're looking at gaining information in. So I think that's a great question.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. And we have one more question.
Yeah.
Andy.
This is for Camilla. It's kind of a loaded question at the end of this, but it's food for thought for everybody, literally food for thought, because that's all I do about food, because I have lost my olfactory senses, not COVID related. It's been going on 2 years now. I was just on another call with a bunch of people who have Parkinson's, and that's what I have. And 9 out of the 38 people on our Zoom call have lost olfactory senses, and 2 of them have regained them. And 1 was only after 6 years, and the rest, it was completely gone. So as a dietitian, I'm just wondering how you would go about recommending meal planning for people who don't have a sense of taste or smell.
Yeah. That's such a
How do you
great-
answer that one?
such
Go
a
for it,
great
Camilla.
question. I mean, I'll start by saying like, this is not an area that I work in. So I'm sure that there is, if I go do my research, I would probably have a better answer for you. But off the top of my head, I've never worked with somebody necessarily in that situation. So I apologize. I'm probably not going to have the best answer for
Well,
you.
I can be your first.
I mean, I would say, what are the things about food that can still bring you joy might be a strong idea
No.
to strive for, but is there a texture that you enjoy?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. It's the look of something. It's the texture of something. I was just saying, I make my turkey sandwiches the same way I always made my turkey sandwiches. And the cheese has to go on the mayo, has to go on the bread. The fresh cracked pepper has to go onto the turkey. It's not that, and the lettuce has to be fresh. The tomato has to look a certain color and be a certain thickness so that I can feel the texture when I bite. So those are things that makes me happy, knowing I used to enjoy the sandwich made exactly that way. And if it's being made a different way, it's probably not going to be, I know it's psychosomatic probably, but it probably is not going to be as satisfying if it's not done the way that, I hate onions the most in the world. I have been eating stuff with a little bit of onion here and there, knowing full well I probably don't like it, but even though I can't taste it,
Like that.
still frowning, but still trying. But yes, it changes everything. You get the feeling when I get citrus, lemon or something, you get the feeling at the back of your tongue. When something's minty, you can get that feeling of
Cooling menthol.
going up through your nasal passage. So that's what I hang on to, and that triggers the memory of what it used to taste like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of substituted.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like so hard,
challenge.
but it's also really interesting to hear, like there is a lot more to our experience of eating versus just the taste of our food. Like, oh, what does it feel like in my mouth? What's the crunch of the lettuce? Like when you were describing the lettuce, I was like, oh, I can imagine like it crunching when you're biting into it, and that those things are familiar and enjoyable. So
I want the bakery bread. I'll spend more on the bakery bread so I get the softness and then the chew. It's
the texture is so important.
Yeah.
I think there's also like familiarity, right? There's familiarity, there's comfort, there's a sense of nostalgia probably for you, like, oh, I love it this way, and I like how you described like knowing that it used to taste good, and so like imagining that it probably still would taste good to you. I think that's such an important part, and it goes back to that mindset piece, right?
You do get a satisfaction from it still.
I love
people
that.
are like, well, you can't taste anything or smell anything, how can you enjoy food? Well, you still do, you just do it a different way.
And probably those other experiences of eating are so much more clear to you, or so much like heightened for you, like that feeling of the lemon juice or the mint. Like, I don't know if I necessarily am even aware that I can feel mint when I eat it. I know
you'll probably be aware now, right?
Exactly.
To my mother everything. Oh, I made this, that, and the next thing. It was so great, and say you can't taste it. I explain why. And she listened to a podcast or something, and a woman was describing something exactly the way I had described it to her. She's like, oh, when she said it, it made clear sense to me, So it's just interesting. Food for thought, as they say.
Yeah, definitely.
If you ever come across somebody, at least you'll know that that's what we do.
Yeah. There you go. I really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, at my other job, it's like a community center, and we have a Parkinson's support group. And one of the women there who attends regularly was saying that she finds great joy in having not cookie cutters, but little things that make shapes out of her sandwiches, out of her vegetables. And she just kind of talks about how like most of her sandwiches are in some like snowman shape or just something funny. And it just adds a little bit of, extra fun to it. Like if I can't taste it or smell it, I'm gonna at least find some other fun way to. And she makes really cool stuff. Like she was showing me these carrots that looks like little flowers, and I was like, hey, yeah,
Wow.
that's visually stimulating at least.
Exactly. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
did. My last roommate and his girlfriend were here when he first moved in, and I said, "I'll make breakfast." And so everybody was seated at the table, and I brought breakfast out, and they just kind of looked at the plate and said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's green eggs and ham." Sam, I am. You know, everybody knows Dr. Seuss, so
Like,
I said it
obviously.
tastes the same way. It just has a little bit of food coloring in it, you know. Anyway.
That's a great way to
But I thought it was great because it was really cool looking, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
think it was so great, but they ate it.
Amazing.
Oh my God, incredible. I love it.
Well, this has been so much fun. I really, really appreciate all of you being here. And yeah,
Thank
cannot
you.
thank you enough for joining. Yes, Camilla and Lauren, you're fabulous. We would love to connect again soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
love to.
Fantastic. Awesome. We are way over time. So we may have to wrap it up. But
Thank
Yeah.
you.
yes,
Thank you for
so much,
joining.
Andy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. And we'll drop all the information in WX Wellness about Flora's upcoming event.
Excellent.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having us. It
Thank
was great to
you.
be here.
Thank you again. See you soon.
Yes.